Yes, yes, he's the one. This rock is Jesus, the only one. Thank you, Jesus. You're going to get a lot of praise now. People, God made us with a strong mind. Obey the commandments. Wear your mask. Wash your hands. Keep your distance. When I look at what happened in Tongues Friday, blasphemy, hurt my heart. We couldn't even get place to walk on the sidewalk. Why are we doing that? We are poor nation, we little country. We don't have what it takes to fight this demand. So people, please do what is best. Save your family, save your friend, and obey the instructions. Let's have a wonderful day, sweetheart. And don't scare people. Scare them kill you more than the disease.
Thank you very
Remember,
much.
Jesus is alive.
Okay.
Praise the Lord.
Thank you. All right. All right. I keep throwing my eye on the Zoom. He is not onto the Zoom yet, so we continue. Somebody on WhatsApp says some of us as a people are really inconsiderate. A simple request as wearing masks and a proper mask at that, we don't do it. We cannot keep the borders closed forever, and the notion that when we had one case the borders were closed is just at that time we didn't know much about the virus and how to control it. Now we hear of a vaccine, so we are in a better place than we were then. And know the people that saying this is a pandemic, stop your conspiracy theories. Good morning, caller.
A pleasant good morning to you.
Morning.
The thing about it, we are not subjected to principality and power, and these are the things that will send us down the drain. Now, the government said that they're cruising down for carnival, and the people show that what? Me ain't care about no government. We haven't, I'm using the obscene language and getting on. I wish we could learn from we mistake. God is there. He's blessing us. But you know, God has blessed us for a reason. He does not bless us because he hates us. He wants me to be subjected, and we are not. Why the people of Grenada is like that? We shouldn't be like that. Oh, God, help us. I wish the government all the best. Dr. Mitchell, I'll promote Peter David as the Minister of Agriculture. And you know what people say? That they demote him. Agriculture is the backbone to our economy. And they feel that it's a demotion. But it's not a demotion, it's a promotion. Let us get back to agriculture and forget tourism. Not when I say forget, tourism could be there, but we don't have to depend on it. If we depend on tourism, it was like we depend on the devil. I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you, caller. And it is at this moment that I welcome Dr. Mitchell to the program. Doc, thank you so much for joining us on this last-minute request, for acceding to our request. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Blossom, for inviting me on, and good morning to your listeners.
Thank you. So let's get right into it. Have there been any developments between the news conference yesterday and this morning in relation to the current COVID-19 spike we are experiencing?
Well, in terms of developments, I was on another program this morning together with Dr. Bud Prophet. So we've been trying to explain to the nation what has happened and the measures that are being taken, and some of the measures that might be taken as the outbreak is being monitored as closely as possible by our team. And to bring a measure of assurance that we're doing, what we can based on our experience and based on best practices to this current situation. So yes, a lot has been happening in the background. Dr. Sean Charles, our CMO and his team, I don't know if they're sleeping at all, but they're working, I would say, feverishly to identify the close contacts to ensure that testing is taking place. And That is the only way we will get ahead of the current situation. So, with calm and with science and with some experience behind us, that is the way we are actually approaching this situation.
The results that we are expecting, the pending results, how soon can we expect those results to come in?
Our results, I will not be able to give you an exact time. The population sometimes kind of, give us little licks in the back for sometimes delayed results, but there is a process. It is a tedious process to get this test right. And if there is any, or if there are any glitches at all, then the tests have to be repeated. If there is a batch, so to speak, where there is an inconclusive test, then that batch has to be repeated. If there is a batch where there is a positive, or it shows a positive, then the batch has to be tested individually. So sometimes we would say that, okay, the results are going to be ready by 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and we can't provide that result at that time is because something is happening that does not allow us to do it in that timely manner. And that does not go only for this particular situation. And allow me to take the opportunity just to go back there. So people are tested, persons are tested on day 4, and we say to them that we're going to give you your results within 24 to 48 hours. Obviously, as I said just now, if there is a result that is inconclusive, we do have to run that batch. And may I take the opportunity to explain what this batch system is about? So how the machine works is that you do them in batches of 10 per batch. And so you have 10 samples in that batch. If they're sort of like mixed, and so if that batch, if there's any positives there, then you will have to rerun them on an individual basis to come up with the identity of that particular person, and that takes a while. So I just wanted to explain that. So sometimes when results are delayed, it is because of those technical issues that must be done so that we can get it right. So to come back to your question directly, what time we expect the result? Later on this evening, but if anything goes wrong, of course, it's going to be into the night, etc.
With the extent of the contact tracing, we've announced, first of all, let me verify the number of new cases, active cases, and so I've seen reports that we have 26 new cases. There have been reports of 28, or that we have 30 active. From the calculations from the figures yesterday, I counted it and I got 71 overall since March to now. But the Worldometer for Grenada has it at 69 cases overall. So I just wanted to verify exactly what our figures are.
So based on the information that our epidemiologist, doctor, and CMO gave us last night, the overall number is 71. So we had 44 plus 36, 4611. How much is that?
It was 43 prior, but I believe they said
44.
There were 2 on Friday.
No, 1 on Friday.
1 on Friday.
Right.
And then Sandals is...
So it's either 70 or 71. So, okay. One number I don't think would make the whole of the difference. I think what we do and how we react to this is what is going to make the significant difference in terms of our response blossom. And, as I said just now, we've had some experience in handling those. We have dealt with those issues and circumstances in a thorough and methodological way, very, very scientifically done. And if persons would cooperate with us when we say to them, okay, you need to self-quarantine, you need to stay home while we conduct our testing, and ensure that you are cleared before you can go anywhere, then this is how we're going to get at the front end of this current outbreak. That is the key to that. And I've heard mention out there, and people are calling me left, right, and center about the possibility and the need to ensure that appropriate measures are taken. And yes, measures are always going to be taken commensurate with the severity of the outbreak. So if we find that if we find more cases, because the chief medical officer alluded that there might be more cases, if there are more cases, then we will take measures commensurate, measures to deal with that situation appropriately. There is no need to go and take drastic measures without a science base right now. But if the situation warrants it, yes, some restrictions are going to be taken, because we know our people. We know that in some cases we are not all responsible, and so we have to take the measures to protect those same people that are not so responsible and the others that are very responsible. So the measures are going to be, as I said, based on how the situation evolves.
And I believe yesterday it was said there are approximately just over 200 results pending. Do you have an idea?
Yes,
yes, go ahead.
Those are the workers that were swabbed yesterday. Just a sec, please.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are workers that were swabbed yesterday, and so those results are being tested now. We hope that before too long, those results are in, and then we can share it with the nation. Now it depends on those results. Further measures will be taken in terms of quarantine, in terms of restrictions, etc. But we're hopeful. We are hoping for the best. But if the best doesn't come, we will have to take the measures to protect the population. That is without a doubt. And we're not panicking in this outbreak. We're just being steadfast to our principles. And we want the country, we want the nation to work along with us to ensure that we can bring this under control as quickly and as swiftly as it is possible.
And do we have an idea of how many people have been told to self-quarantine, home quarantine, isolate or so?
Remember from the Sanders workers, we've had about close to 20 or so that has been testing positive.
26.
Sorry about that. My phone is just ringing off the hook. Okay?
No problem. I can imagine you're in demand this morning.
Yes, really ringing off the hook. So yeah, and so let's give an average. The Grenadian family is about 4 to 5, I think, on the latest statistics that I've had. So you can do the math.
Okay. All right. So let's get into some specifics that have had us Grenadians a little bit on edge in relation to the protocols that Sandals and other resorts need to follow that it seems to us weren't followed to a T. And part of the comments coming in even now on the social media is that there is a kind of privilege that Sandals had been able to enjoy since they've reopened in October, which is probably part of the reason, a major part of the reason why we were experiencing this outbreak now. How can you, for lack of a better word, explain exactly what Sandals was enjoying, for lack of a better word as well, that we were seeing these 26 cases coming out from just that establishment?
So, yes, I've heard the comments already. I've even seen a video that is going around sort of like alluding to the fact that, those have been given special privileges. And that is a talking point. As a matter of fact, it was indirectly raised on the program this morning as well. But let's not forget that not until about 2 weeks ago, we readjusted our entry protocol in terms of time for our PCR test, that we would accept a PCR test result. Only about 2 weeks ago, it was adjusted. Prior to that, our PCR testing result that we accepted was 7 days or less. And that is what it has been. So whereas we have said that we have readjusted, and with quite a bit of a problem, I can tell you, because I am in contact with the folks that are issuing the entry certificates and all of that, because it has been very difficult to get a test within the 72-hour or 3-day period. Very, very difficult. A lot of persons have not been able to get it in the most developed countries, in the UK, in the US. Some have had to miss their flights on many occasions, etc. So what we have done, what we stuck with, is the protocol that says you must, for Sanders guests, you must have a test result that is 7 days or less. So basically sticking to the original protocol. And that whoever qualifies with that can come to the resort and circulate within the resort with all the protocols that have been established. And I said on the program this morning that I had, and I'm not sure if it's a privilege, but I went through the protocol with a fine-tooth comb, as we say. And that protocol matched up to industry, the best of the industry standards. Those that have been refined for cruise ships, those that have been refined for casinos and all the other industries that has gradually opened up. So they are based on international standards. And we were confident that once those protocols are kept by the hotel, that the risk, and we always have to come back on the risk of transmitting the virus is minimized. Now, it all depends, and I want to reiterate the word risk. It is a risk situation. So if you can minimize that risk as much as possible, that is the key to it. And we thought when we saw the protocols that the risk was indeed minimal. It does not mean that the risk is zero. But once you can do that, in other words, you go out the road, you jump in your car, you make sure that your brakes and everything is okay, but it is still a risk that you're taking to drive on the road. You go in an airplane, it is a risk because you can't have a fault. All you need to do is to try as much as possible to minimize that risk. And that is what this whole thing was about with Sanders. And we kept saying, though, that knowing that there was always the possibility that there could have been a breach. And, let me just segue a little bit, because the other entities where we tested on the full day, we picked up persons and we kept them in tune. Now, people from Sanders weren't being allowed to go out. They come to Sanders, they stay there 7 days, and they go back out. And they come in with approved transportation from the airport, and they exit with approved transportation from Sanders to the airport. So you would ask me, what about the workers in the airport? Well, yes, they are also on the front line. And this is what we've been saying. A certain level of risk exists. The persons who are driving the bus, they are also at risk, but you must minimize your risk by taking the appropriate measures. And those persons were trained for that, to ensure that the sanitization, that the distancing of the passengers on the transportation is kept, and that they wear their mask appropriately. In that case, you minimize your risk as much as possible. On the airport, the persons who are checking in, the immigration officers, that's why we put up the barricades, that's why we ask them to wear masks. The persons who are checking them out, We ensure that we put them behind the barricades. We ask them to wear your mask. These are the measures that you mitigate to diminish the risk. And it has worked. As I said on the program this morning, sometimes we get comfortable. We get comfortable. In general, that happens in life. Persons get comfortable and you drop your guard. Okay? And if you would ask me, I would say that is probably what happened. Persons became comfortable. They were treating with guests over a period of weeks and nothing happened. And so you became comfortable and you did not take the necessary precautions in dealing with subsequent guests. And so you opened down, you let your defense drop, and that is where it happened, in my view, if you would ask me.
Something that I was not clear about as well is where the very first of that cluster, where did it originate from? Is it from a worker that brought it into the hotel, a guest that came with it? Exactly where did it start before it spread to the 26? And possibly others.
Well, it's theories we're working with, right? The assumption is that a guest would have had it. And don't forget, and we have had that before, we have had this conversation before. Now, if you do your test on the 6th, right? You're about to come to Grenada and you do your test 6 days before. At that point, you're negative. It does not mean that on day 5 or day 4 or day 3, before you come here, you cannot become infected, right? And that is important to note. So you can have a negative test. And when you, before you leave your country where you're coming from, you are infected. And we have had a few cases with that, and we found it, we had to go at pains to explain to the folks how this works, because, you know, folks have told me directly, but doc, I did my test and my test is negative. And others will tell you, okay, listen, I don't understand why you guys are doing this, why you guys are asking me to go and quarantine because I have a negative test. You understand? But that negative test was done 3, 4, 5, 6 days ago, and you can become infected after that. So going back to the point, these people come with a test, they could have become infected after. You come at the hotel, that's what we're saying, you must keep your guards up. And it's not only to do with that particular hotel, anywhere that persons are being held in quarantine or being isolated, you must keep your guards up because you really don't know if they were infected following their negative tests. And so that person may have had a negative test or would have had a negative test. Let me take that back because we don't accept anyone here without a negative test. So they have had a negative test, come in, may have been infected or obviously infected after they did the test, and the worker here would have become exposed when that person became symptomatic. So the theory is that that worker contracted it from one of those persons, and we don't know if that worker would have spread it to other workers that we're investigating, or that that particular guest had infected others. So, you know, it is just not a straight line in terms of, you know, knowing exactly how the infection spread to the others. But that first person was picked up when the swabbing was done on Thursday, and the results came back on Friday.
A question on the Facebook is asking, can, and let me put in here, would Sandals possibly face penalties for how this situation has spread?
The minister addressed that question yesterday in the press conference, and I have no authority to go outside of that response. We will look at the provisions of the regulations, the legislations, and once that is scrutinized and the investigation is done, then the appropriate measures will be taken, I'm sure. It would be premature on my part here to say anything different.
Has Sandals been asked to evacuate its guests and or employees?
There has been a plan, and I must say, Blossom, that the management of Sanders has been very, very cooperative in all of this. He's been in touch with the chief medical officer, he's been in touch with the minister, and he's been in touch with myself on the outbreak. And even prior to the outbreak, we have had that kind of dialogue, and he has been particularly responsive to what the measures are, etc. So in that way, I just wanted to put that out there. If he has been asked to evacuate, a series of measures have been proposed. The chief medical officer is the one with the authority to sort of like drill down, nail down on those. I don't remember exactly what they are this time, and for to be outrightly, open, I would not like to delve into what those are at the moment, out of an abundance of caution of saying something that is not really what is being agreed on.
All right, this is the point where we will ask our viewers and listeners who may have questions for Dr. Mitchell to respectfully do so. For our callers, if we can please keep your comments, questions, queries, concerns to 1 minute or less so we can get to as many as we have. We have just about 10 minutes left in the program, so please call us 1 minute or less will be appreciated. Let's go to our first caller. Good morning, caller.
Very quickly, the fact is that they've given Sandals the privilege to do as they like, and that is why we end up in a situation. I respect the goodly gentleman this morning. He can't go to say this and that. He cannot even answer with due respect whether the guest has been evacuated. And I have no problem with that. As a matter of fact, all the guests should be evacuated. I remember when they had a problem with agro-industry, they closed it down. And I find Sanders should close it down. It's nothing to do with him here. I'm not blaming him. It's Keith Mitchell and the government. They allow Sanders to come in with just like that without testing, and the other people they test. This is unacceptable. That means that they don't care about Grenadians, just like I've been saying. So the government has dropped the ball. They're too reckless and irresponsible to let Sanders to just do it like that, and they should be they should be blamed. I'm only sorry for the other people who want to come and defend them and say all kind of things. The guests should be evacuated immediately, and that place closed down just as how they did with the thing. So it's one rule for one day and not rule for the next one. And
okay.
It's irresponsible.
Thank you very much. Doc, any response?
Yeah, I mean, we accept the opinions of everyone. That is that the view of that person, and who am I to say that he does not have an opinion of what should have happened. I just wanted to put it on the records, though, and I've said it in this program and on the program this morning that the allegation that Sanders was allowed to do exactly and whatever they want is not correct to say. Sanders, all their guests had to have a negative PCR test to come in, and just like any other facility, their workers were mandated to take all the precautions, all the protocols that every other place that we have guests coming in or persons for quarantine were asked to take. So that is basically what I can say.
A Facebook question: what measures have been put in place since the outbreak at Sandals to ensure we do not have the same problem at other institutions that enjoy the same privilege, like Silver Sands? Remember, Grandans Beach is very close to the hotel and used by locals.
What measures? Well, this outbreak happened on the weekend. Places like Sandals, I must say, just have very, very few guests. The occupancy of those corridor bubble locations have been, not more than sometimes 3, 4, 5 persons at any one time in those places. We are definitely looking at ratcheting up the protocols, and I am certain that in terms of security of the guests who go on the beach, we already had that in place, and that is going to be revisited. I think people, property owners are now overly sensitized with that. Whether or not we're going to institute, testing, a different testing regime going forward, those are measures that we continue to refine and continue to contemplate. But for the time being, yes, we are relooking all of those. We were never perfect. I've said it before in the program. I don't know, in any place in the world there is perfection over, how you manage this COVID-19 outbreak. But we are indeed refining our protocols to ensure that that does not happen as we go forward.
WhatsApp. Somebody on WhatsApp. Is it true that staff members of Sandals distributed toys to schools and members of that team were found to be COVID-19 positive? Should contact tracing be taking place among our schools currently?
Right, so that is interesting, an interesting question. And for me, it's interesting because as recently as yesterday, during the day, one school principal did call me and to inquire into what kind of measures she should take. And she could not say, for example, she could not tell me whether that or any person from the Sanders team were positive. So we have to keep calm. We have to go back and make sure that what we're saying or what we're hearing is actually the facts. Not because someone went out there to the school means that they were positive. Not all Sanders workers are positive. So we are working with that data. We're working with the team to find out if indeed any one of those that have tested positive did go to the schools. And if they have, or if they did go to the schools, yes, the appropriate quarantine and testing measures will be taken.
So far that's not confirmed that any of the people that distributed the toys were positive. That's not been confirmed yet?
Not as far as I know.
All
no,
right.
It's not confirmed.
Landline. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. Doc, good morning. Doc, I feel certainly that everybody that involved in Sanders, whether you go as a visitor, whether you walk in, should be one called to a particular area and test everybody instead of the people going wrong and looking for the people in the community. That's one. And as far as I'm concerned, I think when I was much younger, that I learned the word incubation. I don't know what that means. You'll explain to the public. Incubation period for different diseases might take perhaps 1 to 14 days. And maybe this is the reason why they cannot detect it. So if we come into the conclusion that the best time to detect this virus is between 4 to 7 days. And that's why maybe many of the people are escaping, because we do not quarantine them for at least 14 days. And at the same time, I would advise you all to build little barracks so that everybody who come into Grenada from foreign lands, you put them for either 1 to 14 days into this little barrack, the quarantine, and then after 14 days, you set them free, if they're free from the virus. Everybody.
Okay. Thank you very much, caller. Doc?
I'm not sure if the caller asked any questions. The caller made some comments, and spoke about incubation period. Yeah, that is the period that it takes for the virus or for an organism to replicate, meaning to multiply in your body, and for that person to show up symptoms. So what we've learned and what we've preached, and what the science has told us thus far is that the incubation period for COVID-19, is anywhere between 2 and or the day from up to 14 days. But in terms of the average, it is about 5.1 days. Some people can show up enough or have enough virus in their bodies after 48 hours to be able to infect another person. So that is key to the science. And I want to make that point because there is indeed a certain level of panic that is going around. And this morning I had to take time off to explain to a couple of people that, for example, there is a rumor, and maybe it's not more than a rumor, that someone from Sanders who tested positive was at a particular bar in the south of the island on Friday night. And persons who were there, not even being in contact with that person, are extremely panicky at this time and wanting to get tested. Now, there is no reason for those persons to get tested yesterday and even this morning, because even though you were exposed at that time on Friday night, then there would not be enough viral load to show up in that person. And some persons, even who are not in contact with that person, and may have been in contact with someone who probably spoke to that person. And I hope I'm making sense of this, right? Someone was there at a particular table with some friends, 2 or 3 friends, who were maybe the main exposee. Those persons, yes, they are of direct interest, and they ought to be quarantined and tested at least day 4, day 5, day 6. Now, but if you were at the same bar and someone from that table may have said hi to you, then you really is at no risk at all, because that person who was in contact with the positive case cannot infect you then. It's just impossible. So that, I want to allay the fears of those persons that were possibly there. If you have not had direct contact with the person, then there is no need to be worried at all. Some of the other comments of the gentleman about bringing all of the workers together, that has its inherent risk. I would not admonish that. You're now exposing every single person at that particular institution if you bring them in one place. So, we want to think through what we are saying and what we're doing. And for us, the best methods are isolating, quarantine, testing, and making sure that we get ahead of the curve.
Somebody on WhatsApp is asking, can you explain the R rate and what is Grenada's R rate now?
Well, it is a calculation that is being used to sort of like predict your infections. Now, because we don't know for sure at this particular point, because we're still testing, we don't know what our eventual numbers are at the moment. So it is difficult to actually predict that value at this particular point in time. We're still, at this time, trying to ascertain how many people are affected. As per the beginning of the conversation, Blossom, you asked me about the results that are pending. At the end of the day, by today, tomorrow, when we have tested everybody, we will be able to say exactly what kind of numbers that we're dealing with.
Does the R stand for anything? Is it a word that it represents? Just for my edification.
In different circles, yes, replication or...
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And any final thoughts as we wrap this morning, Doc?
Yes, we're dealing with a very, very moving situation right now. We've never had to deal with the outbreak, or during this pandemic, we've never had to deal with such a situation. During the beginning, we've had a few cases during the outbreak at the agro-industrial plant. There was a big scare, of course. We learned from those. But this is an unprecedented moment for us in the outbreak. We're using all our experience and infrastructure to get ahead of the curve. I'm confident that we have what it takes to do it. We do need, however, the cooperation of everyone to be able to win this current battle. We have said in the past that fighting COVID is a war that is extensive, and that we will have different battles in the process. We just have to win this battle and sort of like, proceed onwards. So with the forces that we have, and I want to put it sort of like graphically, with the forces that we have, we're confident that we can do it. We will do it in a methodological way. And we want to get ahead of the curve as quickly as possible. And whatever measures that needs to be taken to be able to do that, I'm confident that the population will understand that there is a real need to do those, and that we're not just doing it because the government, so to speak, have the power to do it, but we're doing it to protect the population at large. So, as the old saying goes, work with us, we will work with you to get to the bottom of this and to control it as quickly as it is humanly possible.
Doc, thank you so much for acceding to my last-minute request to join us this morning. Appreciate it. Continue to stay safe and doing the job that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Blossom. And, I urge persons to keep safe as well, and to take every precaution that is necessary. Consider the person next to you as a possible suspect case. So you need and you ought to protect yourself. And that is key in terms of curtailing, stopping, minimizing the spread of COVID-19.
Thank you so much, Doc. Have yourself a safe day and as peaceful as it can be considering the environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That was Dr. George Mitchell of the COVID-19 committee. We thank him so much. Again, it was a last-minute request, and he acceded, and I appreciate it. And thank you, our viewers and listeners, for tuning into the program this morning. I know there are questions that I haven't gotten to yet, but in the interest of time, we need to end here. Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell is expected to make a national address on Wednesday night. There's Senate tomorrow, God willing, and I believe on Wednesday as well. So we'll stay tuned to what's happening as this situation continues to unfold. Have yourselves a safe and productive Monday. Continue to wear your masks, walk with your hand sanitizers. Soap and water is always a good, reliable way to keep your hands clean. Have yourselves a good day, and I'll be back with you tomorrow, God willing.